Welcome to the show, The VIPs. This is Priyanka, and today we have with us Mr. Samar Singh Sheikhawat, Senior VP Marketing, United Breweries, India's largest beer company. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
So first of all, not a lot of people know out there, but you're a Rajput, you're from Rajasthan, but you were born and brought up in Assam. So tell us about your journey from Assam to Bangalore.
Well, yes, my father was in the tea gardens, and I was born in Jorhat in Assam in the tea gardens, and lived there for the first few years of my life. And then I came to Delhi and joined the boarding. In fact, lived with my grandparents for 4 years, and then I joined the boarding at the age of 12. And I've been away from home ever since. So, yes, I was born in Assam, spent the first 7 years of my life there. Educated, school and college was in Delhi. And then, of course, we kept going back to Assam on holiday every year. But yes, Assam and the tea gardens are an inescapable part of our lives.
Okay, so you were telling me about a very rich sort of a culture and heritage that you've come from, you know, about your parents and grandparents, about them being a part of the army. So tell me a little bit about that, because not a lot of people out there know about it.
Well, my grandfather was, we are originally from Rajasthan, but my great-grandfather migrated to Haryana and, was part of the family that founded Bhiwani, which is a town in Haryana very famous for producing the best boxers in this country. And my grandfather was born in Haryana and joined the army and fought for the British in the Second World War, fought in Burma, fought in what is called Mesopotamia, Egypt, Africa, the Middle East. His older brother, my uncle, was in the Navy, retired as Chief of Naval Staff Admiral V.S. Sheikhawat. And his younger brother, my father, was in the tea gardens, you know. So yes, we've always, my uncle's son was also in the Navy. So we've, like true Rajputs, we've always had at least one member in the armed forces. And I think that instilled a couple of things in us. A lot of discipline. So if my father saw me with hair like this right now, he'd say, you need a haircut. You know, my father's belief is that I shouldn't be able to hold your hair in my hand. It should be that short. So growing up, we always had a lot of discipline in our lives. Sports has been an integral part of our lives. You know, I played basketball for under 19 for India. My brother played, and we played every sport under the sun. And it's one of my, I think today's youth just doesn't play any sport.
True.
And I still work out, I still lift weights, I still run. I ran 10K yesterday in 1 hour, by the way, for a 52-year-old man, 60 minutes for 10K. I don't think any of you guys in the room can run this. So so sport has been a very part. Discipline is a very big part. I don't smoke or drink, so that's another part of the discipline, even though I work for a liquor company. More importantly, I think the fact that we were born in a particular place, grew up somewhere else, got educated somewhere else. I did my MBA from Symbiosis in Pune, and I've lived and worked in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta, Madras, Hyderabad, all 6 cities. And I've worked, in many parts overseas as well. I think that armed forces sort of background also prepares you geographically to survive and thrive in different geographies and different cities, meeting people from different walks of life, getting exposed to different kinds of food, cuisine, fashion, music, art, culture, politics, economics, etc. So I think it just prepares you to be open-minded and accept a richness and a width and depth of human experience. So I think those are the ways in which it has benefited me and my family members. And going ahead also, the next generation is growing up. I mean, my daughter is now 18 and an inch taller than I am, so she's 6'2". She's going to go to America to study music next year. My nephews are in America studying, computers and stuff. So I think just expanding, the next generation will hopefully be even better exposed or even more widely exposed. And it is my belief that the world is becoming
smaller.
It's becoming one marketplace, and it's smaller in terms of technology has enabled that. The explosion of media has enabled that. I see young girls, for instance, in Bombay and Bangalore and Delhi and London and Dubai and Europe and America dressed the same way. I mean, the way you're dressed, you could be anywhere in the world. So there's a commonality of culture, commonality of language, commonality of cuisine, thought process that's increasingly evident to me amongst urban affluent youth today. you know.
I agree with what you're saying. I feel like the world has sort of become smaller and more reachable than it was before.
Yeah.
Okay, but you've seen both the sides of the coin. You've gone back and seen where you used to get newspaper, for example, once a week, and now almost every minute there's a new update on Twitter regarding news. How would you compare the two?
Yeah, since I think that's a great question. What you're referring to is in the tea gardens. We would get our newspapers from Calcutta, and they would come in by air. And I remember we used to get the Anand Bazar Patrika and the Telegraph and the Statesman from Calcutta. And today, of course, youth today don't read newspapers. You know, they Twitter and, you know, BuzzFeed and Scoop Whoop and Board Panda and Huffington Post and TED Talks and YouTube and Reddit and Tumblr and Instagram and Facebook, and you know, there's a profusion. So I think what's happening is that there is a massive progression of the sheer amount of media that is available. So that's number one. Number two, there is a proliferation of platforms on which this media is available. And number three, there is an explosion in terms of the devices through which you access this media. So it's the total amount of media, the platforms on which it is available, and the devices that you access it from. And a little earlier we were saying technology has been the biggest disruptor in your field. You know, people are accessing it from their phones, their tablets, their laptops, etc. And God knows what the future entails. Maybe they'll just, you know, download it from the cloud, or you know, have chips implanted in them. And if you see Hollywood movies, if you see the Minority Report, what Tom Cruise did happened in Hollywood, actually happened in real life within 5 years. You know, so who knows where look at what Tesla is doing. Look at what you know, people want to go to Mars, and you know, I mean, all sorts of things are happening. Artificial intelligence. You know what's happening between Facebook and you know, between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, for instance. You know, on AI, and it's scary. I mean, some of the potential ways, cloning, for instance. Apart from the ethics of it, you know, how do you decide how much is safe and dangerous, etc. One needs to adapt. I mean, you know, growing up, I read a book called Alvin Toffler's Future Shock. And he said those who are not prepared for the future will be shocked by it. And he said that 90% of all human innovation has happened in what he called the 99th generation, which was my generation. Yours is the 100th generation. So 90% of what you see around us today in terms of innovation has actually happened only in the last 50, 100 years.
Wow.
So the pace of innovation, the pace of change has accelerated enormously. I mean, even 3 or 4 years ago, you wouldn't have thought of driverless cars. You wouldn't have thought of electric cars. I mean, you know, you wouldn't have thought of drones, for instance.
Yeah.
Now, drones can be used to deliver pizza, and they can also be used to deliver bombs.
True.
So, where do you want to go? You decide where. So, I think technology is fabulous. Lots of things, you know, Facebook has helped you get back in touch with school and college friends, and Skype helps, or video call helps you keep a tab on your parents, for instance. I have relatives who live away from parents who are old and in need of medical care, and I saw an app on their phones where they have CCTV cameras installed in their homes, and sitting at the other end of the world, they can tell exactly what's happening with their, you know, aged parents. So that's fantastic.
It's fabulous, yeah.
But it could easily be employed, you know, by terrorists, for instance, to find out where heads of state are, for the sake of argument. I see there are apps that can track where flights are at any point in time. You know, my daughter went to the US, and the parents group put up a WhatsApp group. So I thought that's fantastic and also scary. I mean, you know what happened with Malaysian Airlines over Ukraine, for instance. I mean, you can just shoot a plane out of the sky. I mean, it's a horrible thought. So, I think the immediate thing is that you need to adapt and upskill yourself. But I keep telling people, do not get seduced by technology. Technology is a means to an end. It's not an end by itself. And don't abandon your common sense. So, upskill with technology, use what you feel is useful, discard what you feel isn't, and always make sure that there is always a potential downside of any technology. You know, I mean, now linking PANA and Aadhaar cards, for instance, is a great initiative by the government. There is equally an opposition that says that's an invasion of my privacy.
It is.
Now, where do you stand? So you're saying it is. I'm sure there are a large number of people who feel the other way around. I'm saying, where do you stand? So there are always two sides of it. You know, so I keep telling the young generation today, that is your challenge. What do you believe? Who do you believe? And how quick are you to take a side? because as Shah Rukh Khan says, "Abhi picture baki hai mere dost." The story is always more than what you immediately see. So those are some of the challenges with the way technology is changing and the way, let's say, media is changing. For people like us who are in the business of influencing consumers, the way we approach consumer, the way we treat television and print and radio and digital and social has changed. What will not change is that there will always be a consumer, there will always be a product or a company that is offering a brand or a good or a service. There is a consumer, so there is a buyer for the service and the good, and there is a seller for the service or the good. The way you communicate, the way you influence, the way you message has changed enormously. People today do online research before they come in offline to buy stuff, or they're just buying stuff online. I talked to a few retailers and they said what's happened is the number of footfalls in their stores is exactly how it was, but the conversion has come down a lot. So people are coming into the stores, but they're not necessarily buying from store. They'll see, take a picture of the stuff, and then go back online and buy it cheaper, for instance. But that's still happening while online prices are still low because all the online providers are suffering massive losses. I don't know how it will pan out, but you have to constantly evolve and change your messaging. But what the fundamental truth does not change. There will be a buyer, there will be a seller. The way you communicate and sell has changed beyond recognition.
I agree. Tell us what you love about Bangalore the most.
Well, everyone will say the weather. The weather is lovely. It's temperate and even, and through the year. 9 months of the year you can sit outside and eat a meal. How many places in India can you say that? We are sitting. A month ago we were in peak summer, and while the rest of the country is sweltering, we were sitting and enjoying a meal, because June, July are actually amongst the coolest months in Bangalore with the rains and everything.
Monsoon.
So the weather for sure. I think the options for entertainment and dining out and the general vibe of Bangalore, I think is lovely. The beautiful trees. I love greenery and vegetation, so there's a lot of greenery. But I think there are a lot of things that need to be done. Infrastructure is collapsing, traffic jams, load shedding, water shortages. The water level in Karnataka, in any case, it's a rocky ground, so the water levels are falling. So those are some of the challenges that any government has. And Bangalore is a metropolis that has exploded in the last 10, 15, 20 years. When I was starting my career, Bangalore was called a pensioner's paradise. You retire and go and live in Bangalore. I started my career from Bangalore, by the way, in 1989, a few years before you were born. And it was, you could drive for kilometers and not see anyone else. I used to live in Jayanagar, and I had my ice cream factory, and beyond IIM Bangalore.
Okay.
And on my bike, I used to reach from Jayanagar to beyond IIM Bangalore on the way to Bannerghatta National Park in 19 minutes. My office was in St. Patrick's Complex, and the roads were empty and if you were a bachelor and you had petrol in your tank in your motorcycle in those days, you were king of the road. Today you'll probably get hit and run over by a bus. So things have changed that way, but yes, I love Bangalore.
Okay, so your family has mostly been into business, tea farming, like you said. Also a lot into the army. So why did you become a marketer?
Actually, none of my family's been in business. My father also worked in the tea gardens for someone else. He worked for an English company called Andrew Yule. We didn't own tea gardens. Yes, we grew up in the tea gardens. So no one in my family has ever done business. My younger brother is the first one to start this off. He's a film producer and director in Bombay. And his wife has an advertising background, but even she started her own company. So he's the first entrepreneur. I think we've always sort of been service class people, never done business on our own. I don't know what the next generation is going to do, but they want to do cool things like work for YTV, for instance. They don't want to be stuck in a cubicle 9 to 5.
They want to work for themselves mostly. I feel like not a lot of people in this generation want to go work for someone else. They want to be their own bosses. That's why the whole idea of blogging and using social media has sort of boomed in like the last few years.
So that's great from your perspective. It's great from the country's perspective, where you have so many independent voices and people are saying and doing what they want to do. However, it is terrible from our perspective when you want to employ people. So from the end user's perspective, it's very difficult to get good talent that you can employ because they all want to do their own stuff. So it's great from a country's perspective, like it grows the economy, it grows businesses, it grows. That's what a democracy is all about.
Yeah.
But from an end user perspective, like us, like companies, people don't want to work for us anymore. You know, they'd rather open a pub or a bar or a restaurant or start a, you know, dry cleaning, home delivery, or start a pet rehabilitation center, or, you know, I mean, wherever there is a. So the good thing is, all the startups that are happening are all coming out of some, what we call in the Heineken world, consumer tension. So, for instance, if you, a colleague of ours, and the funny thing is, anyone who leaves us actually doesn't join any other company. By and large, they start up their own stuff. So one of our brand managers has actually started up a curated party destination called Open Out. You know, where suppose Priyanka is fond of Bharatnatyam, for instance. He will get you in touch with 25 other people who like Bharatnatyam, and you will host a party at your house where you can get Sonal Mansingh or someone else to come and perform and do a lecture and demonstration, and they will pay you to be part of that. From that money, Sonal Mansingh will be paid. He will take a cut of that, and catering and thing will be, so it's called Open Out, curated experiences.
Wow.
So who would have thought that there's a market for that? But in 3 months, as he told me, he said, sir, I'm earning in 3 months as much as I was earning when I was working for you.
Whoa.
So that's fantastic for him, but terrible for me. Because now he's gone, I need to find someone else in his place. Another colleague of ours left and joined, he used to handle Heineken, he's joined and he's joined his childhood best friend. If you've heard of an ethnic wear brand called Soch.
Yes.
So he's the CEO of Soch at 28.
Whoa.
Whereas here he was a brand manager, you know. He's a little older, he got married now, but he's been working there for 2-3 years. Now, I'm very sorry to see him go, but very happy that he's doing something that his heart tells him to do. So there are two sides to what's happening. It's great for people like you, you'll attract cool young talent like this. But if I'm launching a traditional media business today, no one wants to work for me anymore.
Yeah.
So it's you know, but that's where the way you have to adapt.
How do you think it'll be in like the coming future? Do you think you'll probably have machines doing all the work that humans do, or?
I hope not. As it is, my wife said that you men are good for nothing other than lifting luggage now. Because even children you can have by cloning your own stem cells, right?
Yeah.
You don't need men even to have children. So, but you know, some of the Hollywood movies show doomsday prophecies of technology gone too far. Terminator, for instance, the whole Terminator series, or Transformers.
Yeah.
You know, today we're laughing, this is not going to happen, but people laughed when Minority Report showed Tom Cruise moving screens from one screen to another. It's happening. It's already there.
Yeah.
Cloning is here, artificial intelligence is here, cars that can fly are technically here. So it's, you know, everything is going to happen as possible. You have driverless, you have cycles that don't fall in Amsterdam anymore. They just stand straight.
Wow.
You can't fall off a cycle anymore. You know, you have automatic cars, you have self-driving cars. I mean, you guys, probably most of you don't even know how to drive because there's no need.
Yeah.
Between Uber and Ola, there's no need to learn how to drive. I grew up driving at the age of 12, I was telling you.
Yeah.
I was driving trucks and tractors and jeeps at 12. So the other day someone asked me, a cop asked me, how long have you been driving, sir? I said, how old are you? He said, sir, 26. I said, I've been driving for 40 years. But no one's interested in learning how to drive anymore. They don't want to buy cars anymore. Why should I put down money in an asset that will depreciate 40%? So the thinking has changed dramatically, you know. And today's generation, millennials as they call them, they're not interested in possessions, they're interested in experiences.
Experiences, I agree.
So your bucket list, I want to bungee jump, I want to trek in Kudremukh, I want to swim in a waterfall. I don't want to buy a car and a house.
Yeah.
Very different.
Backpacking.
You know,
Hitchhiking.
hitchhiking, that
Yeah.
stuff like that. I have 2 nieces now who are going on a backpacking trip to Europe with their boyfriends.
Nice.
If it were my daughter, I would have probably, you know, thrown a fit and maybe got the boyfriend arrested. But you know, that's what's happening today. A 19, 20-year-old boys and girls going off for 6 weeks without parental supervision in a foreign country. Are you going to say yes? You're going to say no. They're going to do it in any case.
Yeah, they'll do it anyway.
So it's also putting stresses and strains, and you need to rethink family relationships. And you know, you can't say हमारे ज़माने में ऐसा होता था, इसलिए मैं तुम्हें उसी तरीके से बड़ा करूँगा. You can't say that.
Yeah.
You have to change. Just like a brand needs to change with the times. At Kingfisher, we need to. Everyone grew up drinking Kingfisher. But there is a segment of youngsters, for instance, like this, who says, I don't want to drink the beer brand that my father drank, for instance. Or even more scarily, I don't want to drink the beer brand that that driver is drinking, for instance. Both thought processes exist. However, and fortunately for us, there is a much larger number of people who say, I will continue to drink Kingfisher beer. But for the small number that don't, I need to offer them something else. So I have Storm, I have Heineken, I have Ultra, I have Ultra Max, I have the imported range, Sol, Desperados, Affligem, Heineken Draft, Dos Equis, brands like that. Because that consumer is looking for that kind of offering.
Yeah.
And it's not watertight, it's not homogeneous, because that person will sometimes also drink Kingfisher. Depending on budget, depending on location, depending on occasion, depending on company, depending on mood. I mean, all these things influence consumer purchase. So it's just much more, decoding consumer behavior is just much more complex today than it was when I started working. The options are so many more.
Yeah.
I mean, when we grew up, there were two cars, the Ambassador and the Fiat. None of them exist anymore.
And they had the Chetak. The
Chetak or the Java motorcycle in my time, or Yezdi, for instance. Now, by the way, I think one of them is Yezdi is, I think, making a comeback, I read. But people buy it for nostalgia, people like us. I give you an example that I'm very fond of giving. For me, Amitabh Bachchan is the only person who can play Don.
Yes.
For a generation 20 years later, Shah Rukh Khan is Don. For someone else,
It'll be someone
today
else.
I asked kids, I said, what do you think of Hrithik? He's so old. I said, really? He says, yeah, he's like 40. I said, yeah, probably more than that, but I mean, that's the point, right? I mean, today's generation likes Varun Dhawan and Siddharth Malhotra and Ranveer Singh
and Tiger Shroff.
And Tiger Shroff. Even Ranveer Kapoor, who's probably just a few years over 30, is seen as old.
Is old, yeah.
But yes, there will be a target audience for Ranveer Kapoor even now. And Varun Dhawan is smart enough to know that in 5 years, he will also be there. So everything is transitory, everything is ephemeral. And sports and sports teaches you that, so because there's always someone better than you. You're not competing with anyone else, you're competing with yourself. Am I better today than I was yesterday? Will I be better tomorrow than I am today? And I keep telling my team and people I meet, never compare yourself with anyone else. Because there is only unhappiness in that road, because you don't know that person's journey. You don't know what that person has gone through to get where he or she is. Maybe you're not willing to do that. And the outside ad film is very different from the inside main film.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to the beer part of it. Okay, so how do you think Indians like their beer?
Well, I wish they liked their beer more and they wish they drank more beer. But for a population of our size, see, half of India is poor. So forget about beer. I mean, for them, food and drink and daily survival is a struggle. And of the 1.3 billion people in this country, only about 100 million people drink beer. And we have some 5-6 different ways of arriving at this figure. About 200 million people drink all kinds of liquor, including spirits and country liquor and illicit liquor and beer. And of that, only about 100 million people drink beer. But our per capita consumption of beer is less than 2 liters per person per year. And it's for a nation of 1.3 billion, our total beer industry is less than 300 million cases. A country like China, which is population is only 15% more than ours at 1.6 billion, their beer market is some 6,000 million cases, 20 times the size of India in terms of beer, and growing at 8 to 10%. So every year they add 2 Indias to and their beer is cheaper than packaged drinking water. Can you imagine if beer became cheaper than packaged drinking water in this country, how it would explode?
It would.
So, however, the long-term prognosis for beer is still good because we have 2 big enablers. Number one, we're a hot country. We have, when my colleagues from overseas come, I tell them that we have 3 seasons in India. Hot, hotter, hottest. Those are our 3 seasons because there's hardly any winter in this country.
There is.
Little bit in the north and very little in the east, and that too for a few months.
For a few months.
So we have 90% of our country is hot all the time. So that's great because beer is consumed in a hot country. The second statistic is the demographic dividend. We have 600 million people below the age of 35. No other country in the world has that. I keep telling people when India won the World Cup in 1983, 2/3 of this country was not born.
Ooh.
Now, think for a moment what that means. When Kapil Dev won the World Cup in 1983, which is not that far away, 2/3 of the people in this country were not born.
We're not born.
So it's a very young country.
Yeah.
And beer is a young man's drink. It's a hot country drink and it's a young man's drink. So two big enablers for beer. But there's government legislation, it's just alcohol is a state subject, there are all sorts of challenges that we deal with.
Okay, so what sort of other marketing challenges has Kingfisher faced, like in the last, say, 1 or 2 years?
See, the biggest challenge I told you was to remain constantly refreshed. And it's not a challenge only for Kingfisher. Any brand that has been dominant in its category for so many years has the same challenge. From Bata shoes to Nokia phones to any other brand to, let's say, the Maruti. Maruti is a great example actually. Maruti was number one 30 years ago. They are number one even today. However, 30 years ago they may probably had 75% market share. Today they have maybe 51-52% market share.
Yeah.
So because they're still number one, but on low, and they're actually selling many more cars now than they did 35 years ago, but the market has grown. So they will never have 75% market share anymore. But I think they have managed to successfully launch models in every price segment, in every style and design, from sedans, the A class, B class, C class, D class, the way the car market is. The same challenge Kingfisher has. I mean, when I grew up, Bata was the only pair of shoes that we bought. How many of you have bought a pair of Bata shoes in the last 20 years? How many of you have been into a Bata showroom? And if you go to a Bata showroom, you will be shocked at the variety and quality and finish of shoes that they have today. It's like any other brand, except they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't know about it. And don't trust me, you go to a Bata showroom, you will probably end up buying a few pairs.
I should visit, yeah, I should.
That's my point. So not only do you have to remain refreshed, not only do you have to change, but you have to tell the consumer that I've changed. It's like Amitabh Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan today, 6-year-old kids watch him, 16-year-old people watch him, 26-year-old people, 36-year-old people, old people as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great example, and I'm talking about Amitabh Bachchan's persona, public persona. Or Rajinikanth here, for instance. I mean, I think Rajinikanth is the coolest guy, even though he's some 75 years old or whatever he is. Yeah. So a brand also has to constantly refresh and change itself, and by doing different things, for instance.
Yeah.
Saurav Ganguly has stopped playing, but he's commentating, he's administrating, he's staying in the news,
What is Kingfisher doing?
So Kingfisher has done a lot of things, apart from much more. So we've done things like refreshed communication. We keep doing limited edition packing, like packs like the cricket pack. We had Dhoni in our ads. We've got the IPL ads. We've got Sunburn. So A, communication, refreshing the communication. B, refreshing packaging, color cartons, limited edition. Digital is a big part of our initiative because consumers today consume a lot of digital content. So we are the biggest in the country, and Kingfisher is the number 3 beer brand in the world on Facebook. Yeah. So we do a lot on digital because that's as far as digital is concerned, today the medium is the message, really. We have mobile first films. We do applications that are done only on. We've launched an app called Pictures, which you can download. It is your nightlife finder. You can tell. It's like the Zomato of the food industry. And we have over 2.5 lakh downloads between Delhi, Bombay and Bangalore at the moment, and it's growing exponentially, so you can book your parties, get to know deals, etc. of all the places.
I've also heard you've done a YouTube channel based on just the short films.
Yes, absolutely. So I was coming to that. That's more with Ultra. We have something called Ultra Shorts, where we're actually producing a lot of content. In fact, later in the month, I'm speaking at an industry forum in Bombay on that. And so we've produced several films, and going up to 23, 24. We partnered with TVF to make Pictures, for instance. If some of you have seen, that is a 5-episode series amongst the most successful. And some of our Ultra Shorts films on Facebook and YouTube put together have got 12-13 million views. And people are seeing the entire film, and these are scripted in-house, not even by the agency, scripted by my digital team guy who sort of fancies himself as a bit of a script writer. We're already shooting Ultra Shorts Part 3 now.
Okay.
You know, so and it's a great way of telling stories, because consumers today don't want to hear your brand. They don't trust advertising. They don't want to hear a brand story. They want to hear stories that interest them, that fit in with their lifestyle, that fit in with their thought process.
Also something that can relate.
That they can relate to, because they believe their friends. They trust their friends more than they trust brands and companies.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one of the things that really satisfies us is, by and large, we work for a brand that everyone loves. And if you don't love it, you don't hate it. You know, if you're Nike, you typically hate Adidas. If you like Pepsi, you probably don't like Coke. But here, people either love Kingfisher, and even if they love something else more, they don't hate Kingfisher. Very rarely will you get an opportunity to work for a brand like that.
Yeah.
And even people who don't drink Kingfisher, if their regular brand is not available, Kingfisher is highly acceptable to them. And you know, sometimes when someone makes a negative remark on Facebook or on Twitter, you'll have some 200 people who will climb all over him and say, or her. So you have your own consumers, you know, talking to other consumers about your brand. I mean, that's amazing. They are what we call evangelists, right? So a true test of consumer loyalty is not company talking to consumer about brand. It's consumer talking to consumer.
Yeah.
And how do I enable that to happen? Of their own free will. They're doing it of their own free will. Because of the years of experience that they have in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
We bring you experiences that money cannot buy. You know, only Kingfisher can do that. So it's a much deeper connect and a far deeper sort of, you know, I need to tell you a story that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Not what I want, what I think you'll be interested in.
I agree.
So it's a constantly evolving, because today's generation, for instance, I was presenting in Amsterdam in June. I was presenting to a room full of 600 people, marketing directors, sales directors, company CEOs from 192 countries across the world.
Wow.
And I said, the battle ahead is not between the rich and the poor. It is not between the haves and the have-nots. The battle is between the open and the closed. Between open-minded and closed-minded people. So, across the world, we are seeing the rise of the right wing. Now, that is what I'm talking about. Between open-mindedness and closed-mindedness. Heineken's world, if you see Heineken's British ad, worlds apart, that's exactly what this is. Even in India, we are now producing content specific for Heineken in India, which is talking about addressing the invisible social barriers that exist. For instance, why can't a single woman or a single man in Bombay get an apartment on rent?
Yeah.
You know, why can't an unmarried boy and girl walk hand in hand on... I read a great quote that a society is judged by the way it treats its lovers. You know, and I think today's generation is far more open and far more inclusive. You know, so that's the challenge as a brand. You need to have a messaging, you know, and it's also far more politically correct. You know, and respect for women, for instance. You know, being open-minded and liberal in your thought and your action. It's optics. And not only do I need to be like that, I need to be seen to be like that as well.
Yeah.
And with Twitter and everything else, I mean, the potential, everything can explode in a second. I've been part of two companies, Pepsi when we had the pesticide controversy, and Cadbury's when we had the weevil infestation. Fortunately, they were pretty much before Twitter and stuff really became big.
Yeah.
But can you imagine look at what happened to Nestle with the Maggi Noodles thing.
Yeah.
You know, so if it is not handled and addressed properly, and you have to be on 24/7, always on. You know, in the old days, if there's something went wrong, you kept quiet and you put your head under the table and hope that the storm would blow over. Tomorrow some leader gets assassinated or some actor gets implicated and immediately you're off the front page and those guys on the front. That's what you'd hope for.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen today. You know, let's say what's happened in Chandigarh right now. The media is keeping it alive, and media pressure is so high that the police is being forced to act, the government is being forced to act, statements are being put out. How it will pan out, I don't know, because I guarantee you, in 1 week this will be forgotten.
Really?
Who remembers Indrani Mukherjee anymore?
Yeah.
That's my
True.
point.
Yeah.
There, she's been accused of killing her daughter. You know, I'm not belittling what happened. It's horrible. If it did, it's terrible. I don't know whether it did or not. What is the truth? I don't know.
We don't know.
You know,
True.
I'm not saying she's lying. I'm not saying that at all. But what happened? So the challenge is to establish what happened and then give appropriate punishment. So that's the times we're living in.
Yeah.
Today's TV, Republic will pick it up, Times Now will pick it up, someone else will pick it up. In 1 week it will be off. Something else would have happened.
Would have happened too.
So, and that's what I tell today. I mean, that's the times we live in. And therefore your brand messaging also, I put out new content, it'll get consumed in 1 week, 2 weeks. After that, it's over.
It's over, yeah.
So I need to, what now? What next?
What next, yeah.
India won the World Cup again in 2011. 1 year later, people have forgotten about it already. So you have to do something else now.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people know? I'm a great follower of Test cricket, right? Old generation, etc. Today, India has set a record of 8 consecutive series wins. No one has, except Australia, who the world record is 9 consecutive series wins. And Australia has done it twice. India has had 8. That's the second highest. No one knows about it. More importantly, no one cares. Because they don't care for Test cricket.
Yeah, true.
So therefore, cricket has reinvented itself with 50 overs and now with 20 overs and then with IPL.
Yeah.
So the game has also evolved in keeping with evolving consumers. Hockey has changed. It used to be 2 halves of 45 minutes each. Now it is, I think, 4 quarters of 17.5 minutes each, I think. The game has become 70 minutes. They play it on artificial turf. It's quicker, it's faster, great camera. Great example, look at Pro Kabaddi League.
Yes.
I mean, we grew up playing Kabaddi, right? Today's kids didn't even know what is Kabaddi. And the girls would play Kho-Kho in our school, right? But today's kids don't know that. But look at what they've done.
Yeah.
They've taken a village sport that is played on the mud, taken it indoors under mat with beautiful camera work, lighting angles, fancy team names, celebrity owners, and completely repackaged something and sold it. Fantastic marketing job.
That's very true. It's a very good example actually. A few years back, who would have thought Kabaddi would actually do this?
Correct.
And now with Pro Kabaddi, everybody's watching it, everybody's excited, everybody wants to know what's happening. Everybody wants to get associated with it. I feel like, yeah.
Mobile phone, I think, there's never more disruptive than that, selfies. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, India is the world's #1 market for selfies. Globally, 50% of all selfies are taken by Indians.
Oh.
We are dying taking selfies. We stand on railway tracks and we get run over. Yes. We stand in the middle of the road and we get run over. We are falling off buildings. We are falling off hills. We are being eaten by animals. We are falling into rivers and drowning and taking. I mean, it's an epidemic. Now, if you're a mobile phone maker, what do you think? Should I disable the selfie mechanism? Should I remove the front camera? Then you have to look at, okay, what are the number of people who are buying my phones? What's the number of people taking selfies? How many of them died?
Yeah.
Then you'll find that probably the percentage is less than 1%. I'm not saying, I don't want viewers to misunderstand what I'm saying. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
But it's a horrible thing for everyone, and it's even worse for the person who's making the phone or who's made that tech. Like I said, the dangers of technology. And how much are you willing to let it intrude into your life? Tomorrow, do you want robots in the house? Will you marry a robot tomorrow, for instance? Now, it's great for a country like, let's say, Japan, which has very few people overall. I mean, although Tokyo's density is very high, and the cost of hiring a human is actually much higher than having a machine. Right? But if I'm in the government in India, if you saw what Nitin Gadkari, Minister of Surface Transport, said, we will never allow driverless cars in this country because it will take away jobs.
Yes.
Now, if you're a consumer, you'll say, man, driverless cars are probably, my wife of course thinks that driverless cars will all crash. I said, there is enough evidence to prove that driverless cars are actually safer than cars with drivers because they crash with far less frequency than. So for instance, who's flying the aircraft that you're in? Are you willing to get into an aircraft that has no pilot?
No.
But that's the reality. 95% of the flight is flown by the system. All landing, takeoff, everything is by remote. The pilot is only there in case something goes wrong. In fact, they have I have a brother in the family who's a pilot, right? They only do the manual override and they need to take permission to override the system because the computer, have you seen a movie called Sully?
Yes, I have.
You must see it. That's a beautiful film on how he proved that the human experience and skill cannot be replaced by machines.
By machines, yeah.
That's my point. And people not learning how to drive versus learning how to drive. End of the day, until maybe artificial intelligence takes us over, there is always a human element, and there are limitations to what technology can do.
Yeah,
Can a robot make you fall in love with someone, for instance?
I don't think so.
You know, maybe you can do, now look at virtual reality, for instance. You could be sitting here and playing golf in the Swiss Alps, if that's what you want to do. It's a moral and ethical debate, you know, there's no end to it. I mean, technically we don't need to meet for this interview, right? You can Skype me, you can be sitting in Florida, she could be in Miami, he could be skiing in St. Moritz, and we could all log in through the satellite. But I'm saying Donald Trump can see us right now, if he wants to. If he wants to, he can see us right now. Right, in 1 square meter through satellites and everything else. I mean, we see Hollywood movies and stuff. Now, that's great for security, terrible for privacy.
Terrible for privacy.
So which side of the fence do you stand on? That's the point I'm trying to make.
Do we even know if you're secure or not?
So yesterday we were in a meeting, one of my marketing managers was raising the same privacy issue. I was saying, do you know that you think everything is private? Nothing is private. Everything on Facebook of yours is not owned by you. It's owned by Mark Zuckerberg. He already owns it because you've already signed it over.
Yeah.
But you don't know it, so it doesn't kill you. What you don't know doesn't harm you.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Between Aadhaar card, PAN and everything, between mobile phone, how do you think criminals, murderers get caught today?
Yeah.
So on one side you're saying privacy, they know everything all the time. Even if you switch off location through mobile 10 they can catch you. So it's great from crime prevention, terrible from privacy. Now if you're in government, you have no choice but to do it. If you're an activist, you have no choice but to take the stand that you're taking.
Yeah.
So
agree.
I'm saying one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. Yeah. But I think there are limitations on technology kind of thing. Yeah, that's the thing, perspective. What is the perspective? What do you want to, and only you can decide. I keep telling people, the only truth in your life is your life's own experiences. Not what happened to your father, not what happened to your mother. That was relevant for them. You can listen to them, but the only truth in your life is what has happened to you.
Yeah.
One of my cousins, my wife's cousin, many years ago had to go in for a brain surgery. And I saw the doctor was going to operate on him. I looked at him like this and I said, how old are you? He says, sir, I'm 26. I said, you're 26? You're going to open up my brother-in-law's head and operate on his brain? Yes, sir. I said, how many surgeries have you done? About 5,000, sir. So I was shut. I didn't know what to say. But in my mind, how can a 26-year-old guy over here, what does he know? What he had been operating for 3-4 years. So, you know, these are the perceptions that you need to battle against.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All boys are growing these beards and all now.
These days,
Yeah,
it's
everyone.
a huge thing.
And I'm told that all the girls love that. That's why they grow the beard. I have a different theory for it. And across the world, I go, everyone's growing now. But the big beards are out of fashion now.
Oh, so
it's all, you ask him, he'll tell you. It's all small trim beards.
Right.
Virat Kohli, he's a lot like Virat Kohli's beard now. So the big beards are gone. I mean, you'll still find, but very rarely you'll find guys with beard this long. And all.
Right.
That was there for 2-3 years, but that's gone now. But now it's short beards and stuff. You look at all the actors, they've all got stubbles. It's called designer stubbles. It's now even accepted.
Designer stubbles.
Designer stubbles. So you see anchors on the BBC with stubbles. Yeah, it was even today. You very rarely will you see someone with a stubble on Indian television. You'll probably see them either clean shaven or full beard.
Full beard, yeah.
You know, but overseas it's acceptable now. You have CEOs in press conferences with stubbles, etc.
People used to not take them seriously.
And growing up is very hard for me because we grew up with this whole army discipline. Either you're clean shaven or you have a beard. It's never, you cannot be in between. Because today's kids are forever in between.
Forever.
And that's also part of the mental makeup. You are forever in, what is it? Life in whatever they call it, life in progress. It's not as if you haven't started and you have not ended. So therefore it's perpetually work in progress.
It is.
I don't want to commit myself to being clean shaven. I don't want to commit myself to having a beard. I want to have the flexibility of doing both, depending on my mood, depending on what my friends say, depending on how I feel. And that's the consumer that I'm selling beer to.
Wow.
Today he's drinking wheat beer. Tomorrow he will drink Kingfisher Strong. Third day he will drink Ultra. Fourth day he will drink whiskey. Fifth day he will say, I don't have any money, I don't want to drink anything at all. So very, very complex and no absolute truth in reality today. There is no absolute truth in life. That's what I keep telling
Just
people.
perceptions.
And it's all grey, just like my hair. Nothing
Grey
is
area.
black and white.
Nothing is black and white.
When you're young now, everything is black and white. When you're young, you want to change the world. I want to be CEO by 30. And then you get to 30 and you say you're nowhere close to being CEO.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe 35. And then you get married and have children and you say, you know what, I don't want to be CEO. I have other things I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with my kids. I want to travel. I want to meet my friends. My parents are getting old. So, you know, your plans keep changing.
Priorities.
1 year ago, could you have said, how long have you been working with YTV?
2 months.
So 1 year ago, where were you?
Canada, studying.
Would you have thought that 1 year later you will be sitting and interviewing some old guy in Bangalore?
No,
And
not
there-
in my wildest
And
dreams.
therefore, 1 year from now, how can you tell where will you be?
I can't.
And I'm dealing with that consumer.
Whoa.
I'm selling to that consumer. Today you think people are interested in listening to me. You know, tomorrow they will not be. So they'll be interested in listening to someone else, if at all. So, like I said, there's nothing permanent in life and there is no
Change,
absolute solution and answer for anything in life.
So change is the only thing that's constant
That's
and
right.
will remain constant.
That's right. Change
And
is
I
the only
think
constant.
as a company,
That and taxes, income taxes are constant.
and for a company as old as Kingfisher, I feel like you guys have adapted and changed with time, with the generation.
We've had to, there's no choice. We've had to do that. That's absolutely true. We need to do that. Refresh communication, new packaging,
What
new
about
activations,
Kingfisher
so-
Buzz? I've heard.
Yeah, so that's another attempt at getting in, for instance, women who don't like beer, for instance, you know, or what we call initiates, new younger consumers who like slightly sweeter things, for instance. And it's the first ready-to-make RTD, beer-based RTD in India. And we're taking on Breezer with that, and we have 2 flavors. We have Buzz Berry and Buzz Lychee. And we have a 3rd flavor that we are working on. And it's doing well. It's a small brand and it has a niche appeal, but you know, we don't have anything for women in our portfolio. And therefore that's our attempt to reach out to a new consumer segment.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. We want to ask you about the challenges that Kingfisher faces when marketing alcohol in the Indian market.
It's not just Kingfisher, you know, alcohol has challenges of marketing because it's a media dark environment. You're not allowed to advertise alcohol. So we have packaged drinking water, which is the 4th largest packaged drinking water brand in the country. That's technically that's what we're advertising. On social media, we make sure that all our initiatives are age gated. All our Facebook pages are age gated, whether it's Kingfisher or Heineken. We also remove UGC, user generated content that shows alcohol branding or consumption or pictures. We put them onto the age gated page, you know, and the non-age gated page has no mention of beer or alcohol or anything. So we are self-regulating ourselves in the digital world far more rigorously than the current law sort of lays down. And as far as television, radio, print are concerned, we all have legitimate products and brands that we are advertising, and we adhere not only to the law of the land but the spirit of the land as well. Okay. The other challenge is sometimes that even on ground execution and interpretation is different by different states, and even within the same city different excise inspectors have different views. So it's part of the occupational hazard of being in alcohol, and therefore the focus is largely on experiential interactions. So whether it is sponsorships or associations of IPL and Sunburn and the Kingfisher calendar and Force India and the Formula One racing team and Kingfisher East Bengal Football Club, etc. So it's association of sports and music with beer is really old, and even food. So we do a lot with food. Food tastes better with Kingfisher. So it's more experiential at the point of sale, point of consumption, events, sponsorships, activations. That's why you'll find that we're not very heavy on television, and print is pretty much not there. Yeah. Even outdoors we barely do, but largely on experiential and activation where the consumer can actually experience the product and the event. So that is where our focus is.
Great. Okay, also UB Group believes in giving back to the society in terms of being socially and environmentally responsible as a corporate company. So it's done a lot in terms of water, healthcare and education. Tell us a little bit about it.
We have a large CSR program. We have a dedicated CSR team. We have specialists who look after that. They work, and this is a direct mandate of the CEO as well, apart from being mandated by law in the Companies Act, and there's a certain amount of funding that one has to put into CSR, I think it's 2% of your PBT that you need to put into CSR related activities. But more importantly, it needs to be credible. So we restrict ourselves to 4 things. Number one is water conservation and water harvesting. And our aim is to become a water positive company by 2030, which means the amount of water we use to produce our beer, we need to give back, charge back into the system as much. Today we're at about 17%. Our aim is to become 35% in the next few years, and then ultimately become a water neutral and finally a water positive company. So that is a key element, because I think water is the single most critical resource that this planet has. And being an industry that uses water to make our products, it is our moral responsibility to give back. So big efforts in terms of water harvesting, water conservation, recharging water across all our breweries. And we have about 30 odd breweries, 20 of our own and about 10 contract breweries. The second one is primary health, and the third is primary education. And that is also again in the vicinity of our breweries. So on a defined radius, we take care. We have primary health centers, we have mobile dispensing units, we have first aid, we provide this to not only the workers of our breweries and their families, but also people living in the villages within the vicinity of our breweries, where we are providing them free facilities. So a lot on primary health care, and then also primary education. We've set up schools. Our CSR head Tushara can talk to you in more detail. We've set up schools, we've taken existing dilapidated buildings, refurbished them, and I've actually been to some of these centers, and it's amazing. You have these girls in Karnataka, for instance, who are born and brought up in villages, speaking fluent English and telling you about scientific experiments, and I promise you, your hair stands on end. Wow. And you think that this is a life-changing moment for that child, because today you are making her capable. I always say that if I were Prime Minister of this country for one day, the single thing that I would do is educate the girl child in this country, nothing else. The moment you educate the girl child, you change a lot of things. She gets married later, she professionally qualifies herself, birth rates come down, diseases come down, and she has a cascading effect on the family unit. It's amazing. I just hope they stay in school, because it is truly a life-changing moment for them. I mean, in the middle of nowhere, near our brewery, wearing long frocks and pigtails, and they're describing scientific experiments to me in fluent English. You sometimes, that's when you feel that you're doing something worthwhile and you're changing someone's life. So the primary education is a big one, and the last one is so I talked about water conservation, rainwater harvesting, primary healthcare, primary education. The last one is barley cultivation. Oh. But we use barley to make beer. And we have contracts with farmers in places like Haryana, Rajasthan, etc., where we guarantee them that we will lift your crop, because barley is not a very remunerative cash crop for farmers, and is not necessarily their first choice crop. Yeah. So we tell them, you grow barley for us, and there is 2-row and 4-row, etc., different kinds of barley, and we will guarantee a certain quantity, and we will ensure a certain price. Wow. So then thereby, obviously we are buying raw material for us, but I'm also guaranteeing livelihood and security to the farmers from whom I'm growing that. So while that's not strictly CSR, but it is something that we've always mandated and we've done. So those are our initiatives on that front.
That's great. I feel like what you guys are taking, you're also trying to give back in some way or the other.
Absolutely.
So that's great. Okay, another thing. How has your family been involved, or what sort of support have you received from your family in your career?
Roger Federer said that if it weren't for Mirka, nothing that he's achieved would have been possible. He's 19, and he said, the day she tells me that I don't want you to play tennis, I will give it up. That's what he said. And I followed that man's career, and I think it's probably one of the greatest sportsmen ever. Such a clean image, such a thorough gentleman, such an artist on the court, and just such a nice, likable man. Even when he loses, his speeches are so gracious. In fact, tennis, and I'm going to answer your question, I think are the greatest sportsmen, because there's no external help. It's just you versus your opponent for 3, 4, 5 hours. Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, they all respect each other so much. Even when they lose to each other, you have to see the graciousness with which they give their speeches. And they all refer to the support system of their wives, girlfriends, players, coaches, fathers, etc. And that's true of life. If it had not been for my wife and my daughter, none of what I have been able to contribute to in all the organization that I've worked with, or anything that I've achieved, would not have been possible. You know, my wife used to work before when we got married, and when my daughter was born, she gave up working. It was a decision of her own choice, and she has dedicated her life to bringing up our daughter and really making the home. And so she says her designation in a passport renewal application form, she didn't write housewife, she wrote home manager.
Oh.
So the guy at the passport control said, what is home manager? And he got a 5-minute lecture on what home manager is. I manage the entire home. And she says, I'm the CEO of the Samar Singh Sheikhawat Enterprises. She said, I manage your parents for you, I manage your drivers, your maids, your relationships, I do all your PR within the family. But she's amazing. I mean, she drives, she goes everywhere. She can repair an electrical socket better than I can. I mean, you know, she can cook anything under the sun. She's a better swimmer than I am. If it were the other way around, if she had continued working, I would have given up. She would have done much better than I have, I promise you, because she's very diplomatic. I'm very mupat. I'll say whatever's in my heart, and you know, in this world, that's not a great thing.
Not a great thing.
So she's everyone loves her. I mean, everyone loves her, and she's an amazing PR person, and just filled with so much positivity and enthusiasm, and so much happiness for everyone. If you met her, you would like her in an instant. You know, she's
It makes me want to meet her even more.
yeah. So for sure. I mean, a huge amount of credit for her. You know, I come back home and it's a haven that she has created. From warm food to a secure environment to everything working, functioning. She keeps telling me that I'm the most spoilt man on the planet. I said, no, that title is my father's, but yeah, second most spoilt probably. And enormous freedom, you know, to do whatever. But I must say, I give her that same freedom and respect as well. And I think the most important thing, Priyanka, is it's not love. You know, love goes out of the window, I promise you, within the first 4 or 5 years. That's bad news for people like you who are not married. The single most important thing to sustain a relationship is respect. If I don't respect the person I'm with, and it's not in any kind of relationship, you know, if I don't respect you, there is no relationship. Because with respect comes trust and affection and love and everything else. I mean, I remember I was counseling someone, a couple that was divorcing, and they said that, you know, the problem is that we don't love each other anymore, we're more like friends. I said, but that's damn good, because friendship lasts much longer than love does, right?
True.
So if you're friends, that's really good, you know. And they took my advice, and they still separated, but they've remained friends, and both have remarried and have children. Also, they have children of their own from their marriage, and they have a very open attitude towards each other, and they do co-parenting, etc. And they even go on holidays together, which is a very foreign concept, right? You go on holiday with your ex and stuff like that. And I like to believe that I played some 2% role in that narrative. But yeah, respect, I think, is the single, whether it's in an organization, you know, these boys, you need to all have respect for each other, the boys and girls. If you don't respect each other, you will not work for a long time with each other. So respect is the single most important thing. But enormous credit to my wife and my daughter as well, you know. I think my daughter understands me better than my wife does.
How?
That's the question I keep asking. You know, when my father-in-law, my father-in-law, by the way, was in the government, he was in the IAS, he was Chief Secretary of the Himachal Pradesh government. He passed away 10 years ago, and he was left-handed, and I used to see him sitting at the table, and there were 10 dishes, and he would look at his daughter, that's my wife, and he said, Now, what does mean? But she would know exactly what he wants, and she would serve. And I said, how the hell do you know what he wants? There are 10 dishes. And today I see my daughter doing the same. I mean, I'm very OCD, right? I like everything everywhere. So right from arranging notes in my wallet. So if I give my wife my wallet, she'll just take the money, put it back exactly. My daughter will put the small notes, then the big notes, then the biggest notes, and then the 2,000 rupee notes.
Oh my God.
Because that's the way I do it. And she's seen that and observed that and learned from that. And I know she knows exactly how I will react in any situation. She will, and part of us is also the same. So I asked my wife, I said, you know, my daughter's been with us for 18 years, you've been with me for 25 years. How come she knows me better than you do? She says, because she's your daughter, I'm not. But it's true, you know, I mean, you would probably know your father better than your mother knows your father on certain things.
Yeah.
So, and I have a favorite theory on relationships. Finally, every man becomes a better father than a husband.
Ooh. Okay.
This is true, especially in the Indian context.
especially in the Indian.
Ask yourself, is your father a better father to you, is a better husband to your mother? Don't answer that question, but just think about it.
I will.
That's always, especially for daughters.
For daughters.
Especially for daughters.
It's for all you daughters who are watching there.
Yeah, that's right.
You have so much pride in your eyes when you talk about your daughter. I don't know, I feel like there's a glow on your face and your eyes just lighten up when you're talking about her. Why?
Yeah, Mahima, I hope you're watching all this. Please say this. My daughter, the first daughter in our family in 50 years, in 3 generations. So I decided that I'm going to be much closer to my daughter than I ever was to my father. But yes, I mean, the worry I have with my daughter is that everything comes very easily to her. I mean, she comes first in school. She decided to take commerce and came first in school in that. And she would have got 100 in maths in class 12. She made one mistake, she got 97. They say girls are not good at maths. I think that's not true at all. And, anything she tries, she just is so good at it. It's almost as if things are coming easy. And then I realized she also puts in a lot of effort. But I used to put in as much effort and nothing came to me. In my life, everything comes 5 to 10 years late. And she's got into Berkeley now, which is the world's #1 college for contemporary music. She did an audition and they selected her. And the guy who selected her, he's performed on stage with Barbara Streisand and Celine Dion and Beyonce and Rihanna.
Wow.
And so I think to myself, I said, if he can judge her good enough to be, then how can I stand in the way of that? So I tell Mahima, I said, the thing is with you is that everything has come, you're succeeding at everything you're doing. Have I prepared her to handle failure? Today, she's the best singer in her entire ecosystem. When she goes to Berkeley, she'll be amongst the 800 most talented musicians in the world. The whole scale and level is completely different. So I need to prepare her for that level. And my favorite saying is, do not prepare the road for your child. Prepare your child for the road. And if you read the book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, there's 1.5 pages on your children. And he says, the words are exactly, not exactly, but he says, your children are not your children. They are like arrows in your bow. Once the arrow has left the bow, there is nothing you can do to control where the arrow goes, how far it lands and what it does. You can only hope that you aimed high enough and pulled the string back as much as you could. Once it is left, there's nothing you can do. And really speaking, as a mother, you're going to laugh. One of the greatest tragedies for a male is that you can't be a mother.
It's a tragedy.
It's a tragedy because no man will ever know the joy of bringing another human being into this world. We men are not even 1/10 of women. You can create life. How can anything even come close to that? By the way, most men don't think like me, but that's how I think. You're just, it's just everything else you do, all the houses, cars, money, clothes, nothing comes into comparison. Even I'm sitting here because some woman created me.
Created you.
Or at least played 98% of the role. My father played only 2% of the role. So it's something that men cannot even understand.
Yeah.
And my wife always says that when the child is born and the doctor cuts the umbilical cord, it is a message to both parents that now this is a living, thinking human being separate from the two of you. So you need to give that kind of respect and space. You cannot control your children's destiny. You just cannot. We are very worried about which school they get into, what they will do, internship, ye wo vagera.
The friends that they hang out with.
Did your parents control your destiny? No, they didn't. Did his father decide that he'll become a cameraman? Is his father seeing him right now that he's a cameraman? No. Can he make a son or daughter cameraman? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to understand and remember. You can barely control your own lives. Yeah, what do you try and control anyone else's
other people's
life?
Agreed. From a very serious note to, let's go to something lighter now. If you were given a chance to make your own IPL team, sort of in terms of decide what players you would retain, which ones you would add to the team, what would your dream IPL team look like?
Oh God. Let me ask you a counter question. If you came back for the interview tomorrow, what would you wear?
I don't know.
That's exactly the point. So the point I'm making, so I was in England, I was in London, I was with my designer, guys who design our labels, Classons. And the answer to one of the most enduring mysteries of mankind is when women have so many clothes and shoes and bags, yet they are always saying that I have nothing to wear. How do you answer this? And men cannot answer it. Finally, the answer was provided to me by a 21-year-old English receptionist who was sitting out there. And she was talking to another account manager who handles our account. And we were waiting for Vijay Malia to arrive, and we were talking, and she said it. She says, it's because we have nothing to wear that defines how we feel at that moment.
Oh.
So I said,
very
what?
well said.
I said,
that
what?
That is so true.
That is so true. So I feel black today, but I feel black, not black, as Kareena Kapoor would say. The man will say, what? What are you saying? So I don't have anything that makes me feel the way I feel today. So that's why I say women are far more evolved creatures. Men don't give a damn. You know, there's a joke. Yes, IPL team. Why do women don't play cricket and hockey? Because 11 of them would not be caught dead on the field at the same place wearing the same clothes. Whereas, so if a girl, so let's say if you met Nisha and she was wearing exactly the same, you say, how could you do this to me?
Why?
Whereas the guy will say, hey man, same t-shirt, yeah, they'll hug. Right or wrong? Say, man, cool, we are brothers.
Brothers.
But the women will say, my God, how could you do this to me? So that's the difference. So the women don't have what they want to wear at that point in time.
Yeah.
I feel like this, but I don't have any of that.
I don't have any of that.
If you actually look around, the guy will say, of course you do. You have 10 pairs of jeans and 20 tops. Wear anyone, I don't care. So it's, and I think a cruel joke played on us by God. So the answer to your IPL team is it depends on who I'm playing, in which city, on what pitch, under day match, light match, night match, what kind of track. Is it going to rain in the evening? Am I playing in Pune where there's dew in the evening? And pitch. So it's a little complicated. I mean, these guys will, if any of them follow cricket, they'll understand. If you don't follow cricket, you won't understand that.
I follow cricket.
Yeah, but so for instance, right now, think of what's happening. Ravindra Jadeja has been banned for the third test against Sri Lanka. So now Virat Kohli is a choice. Do I play Kuldeep Yadav, the left-arm Chinaman, or I fly in Akshar Patel? They've flown in Akshar Patel, who's also a left-arm bowler, but completely different. Now you're flying him in. If you're flying him in, you have to make him play.
Yeah.
But he may not play because on the day of the match, the pitch may be different. So otherwise, why fly him in at all?
Yeah.
So it's a little complicated. But if you ask me, and also the thing about you, so if I had my way, I would say IPL there should be no restriction on the number of foreigners playing in a team. Mm-hmm. If you want to go by pure merit, Priyanka, why should if the best people are 11 foreigners, play 11 foreigners. That's how it is in English Premier League football, right?
Yeah.
There's no restriction on number of people in all the leagues. It's the 11 best players. But the aim of IPL also is to develop Indian talent and give them an exposure to working with and playing with the best foreign talent. Now, again, which side do you sit on? You know, because that's the rule. So that's how it is. Otherwise, I would see other thing is also Indian talent is cheaper. Indian talent is available because they have no other commitments. Yeah. The English don't play because they don't believe in limited overs, they believe in test cricket. So, you know, and halfway through the season they'll go away, and injuries and so many other, you know, that's why you have the foreigners coming and going. So it really depends on, for instance, look at what Shane Warne did in the first year of IPL. He took a team of unknowns.
Yeah.
And molded them into a unit that won the IPL.
That won the IPL.
So leadership itself, sometimes you have really talented young players who are looking for guidance and direction, and they're not expensive, and individually they may not be fantastic, but together they can beat anyone. So that's the thing, you see, that do you want a team of superstars, or do you want a team of people who are not superstars, but together they are a great team? It's very hard so I mean, you know, otherwise I'll say I want Virat Kohli, I want AB de Villiers, I want Chris Gayle, but I would not take Chris Gayle because he's old and slow now. Chris Gayle 5 years ago, yes. Chris Gayle today, no. You know, so AB de Villiers also today, I'm not sure I would take him because he's obviously in the second half of his career. So it's really hard to tell, right? Ideal IPL team, I mean, there's so many superstars, so many youngsters who are not so well known. I don't play fantasy league. Maybe you should ask one of these guys if they play fantasy league. They can probably answer that question. But the answer really, Priyanka, is that it depends on and that's what life is, right? All about. I mean, if you're interviewing me, you can come in jeans and this. But if I were working in Citibank and or in McKinsey or something, you might think that maybe I should wear a business suit, for instance.
Suit, yeah. I think.
But one thing I'm certain:
Uh-huh.
the captain will be MS Dhoni and not Virat Kohli.
Why?
For sure. That is the biggest rock star that India has ever produced. I don't think we have had a better leader than MS Dhoni. You like him, hate him, whatever it is. Virat Kohli is a far better cricketer. I mean, as a batsman, as a fielder.
But as a captain and leader?
But there's just something that Dhoni has. He's not the best. I keep telling people, and I said, when Dhoni was playing, was he the best batsman in the team ever? No. Was he the best bowler in the team? No. He's not even the best wicketkeeper in India. Ridhiman Saha is the best wicketkeeper. But all put together, plus what's inside his head out here, he just brings an X factor that no one else has.
No one else has. I agree.
His situational awareness, his thinking power, and the way he can take you and make you perform your best. There's no one who comes close to him. So my captain is MS Dhoni.
MS Dhoni.
That is, and therefore wicketkeeper also MS Dhoni. The rest you can choose whoever you want. MS Dhoni almost won the IPL with the rising Pune Super Giants. He lost by 1 run on the last ball. He had no superstars in his team.
Yeah.
That is the power of the man. So the captain will be MS Dhoni. Baki, you take whoever you want.
Super. Okay, now yes. We have a short segment wherein I'll put you on the spotlight. So
spotlight's already on me.
So I'll ask you questions and you have to answer them really quickly. It's like a rapid fire round. Are you ready, Samar?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Your favorite sport?
Okay, to play or to watch?
To play.
Play has to be basketball. I used to play basketball, so to play is basketball. Probably.
Okay, your favorite sport to watch?
Cricket.
Cricket. All right. A movie that has inspired you?
Okay, inspired, I would say, have you seen a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness?
Yes, I have.
I mean, I think it's the most amazing film. I must have cried. I cry very easily in movies, by the way, crying all the time. Amazing, amazing. I think that, I would say, probably that film inspired me the most. It's a true story.
It is.
The Pursuit of
Happiness.
Happiness.
It's a beautiful film, I agree. Okay, so which is your favorite holiday destination?
I think I like London a lot. I love London. I think it's just a very cool, so open, so many different cultures, different kinds of food and shopping and all. I just love London. I think probably my favorite destination. Overseas, in India, it was probably Assam where I grew up, and because it was home, it was like going back home. And now it'll probably be Jaipur because when I'm home, I mean, I'm 52, my parents, but I just enter my parents' home and I just feel I always belonged out there. And it has more to do with where your parents are living. Really.
What is your favorite kind of cuisine?
I like continental food. I prefer it over Indian food actually. So Italian continental is probably my favorite.
All right. Virat Kohli or MS Dhoni?
As a player or as a captain?
As a player.
Player, probably Virat Kohli.
And then obviously we know as a captain you prefer
MS Dhoni, yeah.
MS Dhoni because he'd be the captain of your team. What is the craziest thing that you've done so far in your life?
I can't, okay. You really want to know?
Yes.
So in Bangalore once, I dropped my flatmate's girlfriend back. She had stayed the night at his place, and he was ill the next day, and we were living in Jayanagar, so I drove at 6 o'clock in the morning on my motorcycle from Jayanagar to a house on Wood Street here, wearing only shorts, nothing else.
Oh God.
No t-shirt, no shoes, no socks, nothing.
Wow.
Only in shorts. No helmet, nothing.
That is, I think, a crazy thing to do.
And I was stopped by the policeman who said, you're violating rules. So he asked me for a bribe. I didn't have any money to pay him. So, crazy. I can't believe I did that.
What is the secret of your fitness?
Patience. Because results don't come overnight. You just have to be very, very patient, and you have to just keep doing the same things day after day after day after day for the rest of your life. So you need to have patience and commitment to it.
What is the one virtue that you value in a human being?
Truth. Telling the truth. I cannot stand lies and hypocrisy. I just can't handle it. If I cannot trust you, if I can't believe what you're saying, I can't function. It's I have never lied to anyone about anything. I may not tell you the truth, but I will not lie. Sometimes you have to be diplomatic, but hypocrisy and lies I cannot stand at all. In fact, hypocrisy is for me probably worse than lying, where you're saying something and doing something else. I can't stand that.
All right. If a book is written on your life, what would it be named?
Lust for Life.
Lust for life.
Yeah, I think I'm in love with life itself. And you get a sense of that when, see, unlike all of you, a larger part of life is still ahead of you. For me, it's the other way around. The larger part of my life is behind me. The shorter part of my life is still ahead of me. So every day, you know, you're closer to death. But I know people who died at 20 and they were buried at 70.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You died at 20, but you were buried only at 70.
Yes.
And that is the whole thing in terms, I'm fitter today than I was when I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happier today than I was when I was 25. So it's just, and I just think life is just only going to get better for me. So lust for life. I mean, life has so much to offer, there's so many things I want to do. Places I want to travel, the kind of foods I want to eat, people I want to meet, you know, there's just so much still left.
Left to do. Okay, has someone used any crazy pickup lines on you?
You know, now they all think I'm a father or something. So, okay, let me, since we are talking, I don't, is it going to be like PG or, you know, our restricted audience who's going to watch all this? I don't know. So the funny thing is that people all say, oh, you're so good looking, etc. I don't think I'm good looking at all. Good looking is Elvis Presley. Good looking is Tom Cruise. Good looking is Brad Pitt. Yeah, you know, so Rock Hudson, those are classically good look. I may have a certain charm, I may have a certain personality, and I may have a certain, so I think people like that entire picture, but it's very funny. So all the girls say that, you know, oh, we love grey hair and stuff, and we love salt and pepper. So I look at them, I said, bloody hell, where were you when I had black hair? When I had black hair, you didn't look at me. And now that I've got white hair, you're looking at me. It's a similar story to my dad who went to, you know, Paris for the first time in his life when he was some 60 years old or 55 years old. So I asked him, I said, how was Paris? And, you know, his name is Singh Sheikhawat, but in the tea industry, they call him Sheikh, short for Sheikhawat. So he said, you know, I wish I'd gone to Paris 30 years ago. I said, you mean when Paris was really Paris? He says, no, when Sheikh was really Sheikh. So that's really, so I keep telling these girls, I said, you know, you're noticing me now when I'm like 52 and grey haired. When I was 22 and black haired, no one looked at me. So I'm like one of those late bloomers like Harrison Ford or Sean Connery or someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but so on your pickup line, you know, so the thing, it's not just pickup lines. You know, like Boris Becker, who was one of my favorites, etc. He says that I wish I had the brains of when I was 30 years old and the physical power that I had at 18. I wish I had the 30-year-old brain when I was 18 years old. You know, it's like this, if I ask your favorite question, I said, Priyanka, you're 25. Let's say you meet the 18-year-old Priyanka. What will the 25-year-old Priyanka say to the 18-year-old Priyanka? Don't answer that question, but that's a favorite question in interviews today.
Yeah.
Earlier on, even if someone is using a pickup line on me, I didn't get it. I didn't know. When you grow old and you get more experience, then not just pickup lines, you'll understand when people are saying something but they mean something else. You know, so simple, like if you ask me, so did you like the film? You say, yeah, man, I think it's great. Versus, nice.
Yes.
Versus, yeah, I think it's all right. So now, when I was younger, I didn't understand the difference between these three.
Yeah.
So now I can tell immediately whether if someone is interested in talking to me or not, like this.
Yeah.
But I got grey hair and I got 25 years of marriage. Like I said, everything comes to me 10 years later in life.
Yeah,
so I said this to my basketball coach and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Samar, हैसियत से ज़्यादा और समय से पहले किसी को कुछ नहीं मिलता.
I love that. It's great.
A philosopher I've become in life.
Okay, one word about the Kingfisher calendar.
I think we're very blessed that we don't have any Nari Niketan, NGO, any of these political parties saying that we're objectifying women and stuff like that. For some reason, so we've always kept it very cool, very premium, very aspirational.
Very classy.
Very classy. You know, we always shoot in a foreign location. Next year we're shooting in Croatia. So exotic locations, etc. And I think we try not to objectify women, and most of them, I mean, a lot of them have actually gone on to become successful. So Deepika Padukone is the ex-Kingfisher calendar, Yana Gupta, Katrina Kaif, Nargis Fakhri. You know, a lot of big movie stars have, you know, Angela Johnson. I mean, a lot of them have gone on to become, you know, in the field of sort of entertainment, arts. they've gone on to achieve great things. And it's a very premium, very aspirational. We print only a couple of thousand copies. And my dad doesn't get the calendar, for instance, and he says, my son is the head of marketing and you can't give me the calendar. I said, no, because you're not on the chairman's mailing list.
Whoa.
So we've deliberately kept it small in number, etc. And we do a lot of leveraging around it. You can make your own digital calendars, you can download the calendars, we give away calendars for auction and charity. But yes, it's a very desirable property. But it's always, we are very careful to not make it look cheap and sleazy. So it's a challenge. You have to walk that fine line, because at the end of the day, it is beautiful female bodies in bikinis on beaches. Now, you need to make sure it's always classy and aspirational and premium and not sleazy and down market, and it's a very tough job.
Okay, if you were given the invisibility cloak, what would you do with it for one day?
Disappear from the world, go to Mount Kailash. Now, I think it'd be interesting to observe people who would react so when people react to you, they react because of who you are, what your name is, what your position is. One of the biggest challenges for people like me is people are always trying to please me. People are always trying to be nice to me. People are always trying to do favors to me. People always want to be next to me. They want to talk to me. They want to meet me. Right now, there are two ladies sitting there. So you need to realize that, are they coming for the chair or they're coming for you? Once the chair is not there, who are the people who are really there with you? Your friends, your family, people who've been with you when the chair was not there in your life. That is why I respect Dhoni, because his closest friends are the guys who he grew up. If you see the movie, those three guys on the bikes, Arun Pandey is one of them who runs Riti Sports. He will trust Arun with his life, because Arun, you and I knew each other when we were like 10 years old, when I had nothing.
Yeah.
And you've stuck with me even today, and whether I have anything or not, it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
Therefore, I trust you with everything. And if in your entire life, you can go through people, so you have a 3 a.m. friend. If I ask you, how many people are there who you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning who will come for you? Frankly, if you ask me, I would say 2 people. After 52 years of living, other than family, 2 people.
Yeah.
In my life, there are only 2 men, 2 boys. One I studied with, one I met later, who will come for me at 3 o'clock in the morning. As in consistently, because I'm Samar, not because I'm CMO of UB or something like that. So that's really what it is.
So you'd probably go back and see who your true friends are and who are not.
I know who my true friends are. You're interviewing me today because who I am, because the position that I represent. I'm not saying you're not a friend, but I'm just saying that's how it is. Tomorrow you become a famous anchor, you'll have 20,000 people on Facebook following you. How many of them are your friends? How many friends do you have on Facebook? I have 2,500. Out of which my 2 best friends, one is not even on Facebook.
Wow.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
How many do you have on Facebook?
I think I have about 400 friends.
400. How many of those are your really good friends? Probably not even 5%.
Not even a single person.
There you go. So that's when friendship has become very, very different today. When you die, how many of your Facebook friends will be there at your funeral?
I don't know.
I will see.
Forget it when I die. When I'm getting married, I don't know how many will probably be there.
That's it.
Sad truth of life.
Okay.
What is your motto in life?
My motto in life is that you have to search for happiness. It doesn't come.
It doesn't come.
You cannot sit and wait. Happiness, please come. Where are you? I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Happiness, come to me. It's not going to come. You have to be happy wherever you are doing whatever. You have to search for happiness. You have to grab happiness and pick it up and carry it with you all your life.
All right.
It's just not going to come to you. And we are always saying that guy earns more money than me. That guy has a bigger car than me. That person is going abroad. That person has more children than me. That person has more money. That the person has more clothes than me. That will always be true. Have you ever thought that how much more money you have than many, many, many more people? We are so blessed. I'm healthy. I have a job. I have a family. I have friends who love me. My parents are alive. We have a lot to be grateful for. Yeah. I never thought I'd become even where I've reached. I think God has been extremely kind. I've been very blessed and very fortunate. And so many people have taken a chance on me and given me these jobs in my life. I'm sure they could have hired someone else, but they chose to hire me. Yeah. And so never lose your humility. Never lose your humility. Because there's always someone who's as good as you, 10 years younger than you, and half your cost. So people like us, I'm 52, and let's say I get X salary. There'll be someone 10 years younger than me, almost as good as me, maybe 90% as good as me, but at half my cost. Why will the company not hire that person, and why will they continue with me? Because I need to every day come back and give them a reason for hiring me. This camera guy, for instance, his next interview in his mind has to be better than today's interview. Otherwise, there will be someone who's 2 years younger than him, half his cost, who technically could threaten him. It happens in sports also, yeah. You know, if today, look at our openers. I don't know whether you follow cricket. Look at the choice of openers. We've never had a choice of openers. Look at the choice of bowlers. We've never had pace bowlers. We have so many pace bowlers, we can't make them all play in the same team. Today, otherwise, if I could play all bowlers, Ishant Sharma would play, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar would play, Mohammad Shami would play, Umesh Yadav would play, Hardik Pandya would play. You have 5 pace bowlers, but you can only play 2 or maybe 3. You know, and look at the number of opening batsmen from Murli Vijay, KL Rahul, Shikhar Dhawan, Rohit Sharma, sometimes even Ajinkya Rahane, but I can play only 2. So there's always, and if you don't perform, there's someone there to take your place. You know, you have to perform every day, all the time.
Okay, so that was Samar Singh Sheikhawat for you guys. It was a pleasure having you on the show, just talking to you and listening to you. I wish you all the success in your future endeavors. I just hope that wherever you go, you spread happiness and joy, and you are able to attract equally the same amount of happiness that you're giving away. So thank you so much for being with us on this show. It was great talking to you.
Thank you for having me, and good luck. Thank you.